I think you're exactly right, Jody. I think he does what he's asked relatively well, relatively consistently, certainly better than we've seen, again, as a complimentary corner. Remember, he's the cornerback too. Darius Slay's playing like an all pro, by the way.
Yeah.
Having a phenomenal season. He's been the best corner, arguably, in football, all of football. He's in that conversation.
You got Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel with McMullen and McDonald hanging with you. A lot to talk about the offense, about the quarterback, about Jalen Reagor, about how Nick Sirianni evaluates his wide receivers and how he uses them. Defense will be as big a part of determining Sunday's outcome against the Giants.
Nobody's talking about the defense.
And no. And Jonathan Gannon's probably okay with that, he's off the hot seat, out from under the microscope. I want to ask you about a single defensive player on the Philadelphia Eagles, because I had Reuben Frank on my WIP show the other night. And he evaluated a player one way, and I evaluate him a little bit differently. From A+ to F, if I put you on that scale, how would you evaluate the play this year of Steven Nelson?
B minus. Good player. Has some limitations down the field, but he's been the best complementary corner the Eagles have had for quite a long time. Good, solid player. Not a great player.
All right. Rube had him at about a C.
Oof.
Which
That's
I think
harsh.
is woefully underranked. I would rank him even higher than your B-. I would give him a B, and I do this often. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. To truly evaluate someone, if you put a number out there or a letter grade out there, if you say, it can't be that, you got to move it one way or the other. If I were to call him a B, and I was told you can't give him a B, you got to either give him a B- or a B+. I would actually go to B+. So I think he's between.
I would go up from B- as well.
You'd go up to B. If I told you no B-, you would not go back to C+.
No.
You'd come up. All right. So we're probably closer than, certainly closer than myself and Reuben were. I think he's done a really nice job. I believe that in Jonathan Gannon's system, there are a bunch of passes that are thrown in front of him that he knows his job and his responsibility is just to come up and make the tackle after the play has been completed. Doesn't look good, doesn't grab anybody's attention. You don't say after the play, wow, great play by Steven Nelson. No, he's just doing his job. But if you're in a system, that's what you got to do, is your job.
Exactly.
Not going to be your job to go up and contest the pass. Just make sure someone doesn't get behind you and give up a 25 or 30-yard pass. Well, then that's him doing his job. I think Steven Nelson does his job on almost every single play. He has not gotten burned. He does not make mistakes. I think he's been damn good for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know that it's always about the future, and you look toward next year, and if they can get Steven Nelson back on the same exact deal that they got him on this year, I'd bring him back on a heartbeat. Couldn't sign off on that fast enough. If another 1-year deal at the same exact dollar numbers, it's my option to sign it. I can't sign it fast enough if I'm Howie Roseman.
Yeah, I'm and I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to Rube about it when I get down there. But I think, and I say this all the time, I think people don't add the context into it. You added an important part to it in that, what is he being asked to do? That's an important part to it. You just don't go out there and play like it's pickup football,
right?
Like it's your family turkey bowl Thanksgiving. Go cover that guy. That you're doing a job. You're tasked with a job. I think you're exactly right, Jody. I think he does what he's asked relatively well, relatively consistently, certainly better than we've seen, again, as a complimentary corner. Remember, he's the cornerback too. Darius Slay's playing like an all pro, by the way.
Yeah.
Having a phenomenal season. He's been the best corner, arguably in football, all of football. He's in that conversation. But then I add in the context of the rest of the league. I mean, there's a lot of shaky corners in this league who don't do what they're supposed to do and are freelancing. And I do think people get too Philadelphia centric, and they not just Philadelphia. They focus in. You're a Jets guy. They focus in on their team, and they don't look at the rest of the league. How is this guy compared to other number 2 cornerbacks in the league? And I think he's solid. And that's what he was in Pittsburgh, and you kind of get labeled. But I do think Avonte Maddox is having a big year as well as a slot corner. The Eagles are near the top of the league, and that's been their goal when it comes to explosive plays in the passing game, limiting them. But they do give up a lot of stuff underneath because that's what he's told to do. So blame Jonathan Gannon if you want to blame somebody on that. I think he's been a really, really solid player. And that's why I'm not going to go overboard. And then you get the pro football focus grades. His pro football focus grade isn't tremendous. I think people lean on that a little bit too much. So I think that all enters into it.
Right. But here's the problem with the pro football focus grade. And again, you and I have talked about this many times here on Birds 365. Pro Football Focus looks at it differently than you or I might, or someone who understands what Jonathan Gannon's defensive scheme is all about. They just looked at it in a cold, hard, cool world of what the production. Well, if you're not supposed to produce on a play, then that should be held against you. Sometimes Pro Football's focus is, I think, a little skewed. So I'm not going to worry about how they do or don't grade out Steve Nelson. I watch enough of it, and I see what he does and doesn't do, and I'm telling you, he's doing a heck of a job. Couple of these cornerbacks that the Eagles picked up during the year. The kid from Denver when they made the trade right before the trade deadline, and the Gowan kid that they got in the Zach Ertz trade. They got any chance of playing between now and the end of the year? They really shouldn't, because Slay and Nelson have been that good. They shouldn't Maddox get on the field. But will they if the Eagles get eliminated from playoff contention?
No. I mean, you never say never. I mean, you may want to rest Darius Slay late if you're not in it. Avonte would certainly want to play, and you just signed him to the extension. Steve's going to be a free agent, so could go either way with him. I think the only way those guys get on the field are injuries. And, Zach McPherson has been the number 1 corner off the bench, which they haven't. I mean, they've been very lucky at the cornerback position. They've been healthy for the most part. Slay was able to get through concussions, had some banged up, but he's been able to play. They haven't had to go. I think you would see a huge drop off. And you did. In what game did Slay leave early? You saw Zach McPherson have to come in, and they struggled. I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to look.
Saints game?
Yeah, the Saints game. And the Saints started to come back a little bit. That's directly when Slay came off the field. But it was well in hand. People were starting to worry. And Zach McPherson was on. You kind of saw a little glimpse of what might happen. And it would be interesting if one of the guys got hurt. Would they immediately keep defaulting to Zach McPherson, or would they give Tay Gowan a shot? Would they give Kerry Vincent Jr. a shot? Would they give Mac McCain a shot? They got a lot of bodies, but we don't know much about any of them. The most we have is Zach McPherson. He doesn't look ready to play, and since he's first in line, those guys probably aren't ready to play. Would be my guess.
Well, and I hope that we don't even have to answer this question, because the Eagles stay in it right up until the last week of the season. But they've got more backup corner. They've got wide receivers on the active roster.
Yeah, they can't.
They can't justify in their own mind to put on the field, but they can have all these backup quarterbacks.
And meanwhile, and by the way, they'll be on their fourth offensive guard, and they'll be fine. They'll be completely fine.
Right.
You have depth at some positions, and in other positions, not so much.
He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are hoping to hear from our buddy, Mr. Costello, Jet beat reporter. He should be hopping aboard any second now. Brian Costello of the Post and WFAN, because we want to get a little information on the opponent this week. Yeah, I know.
New York Jets. 0-11. We haven't brought up that number, which is the most meaningless number, but at some point, because obviously the Eagles and Jets don't play each other very often, except in the preseason.
Every year in the preseason.
But when it matters, they don't play that often. But it is strange. 0-11 or 11-0 if you're an Eagles fan.
Is it going to 12, or are the Jets going to get their first win against the Eagles? We shall see. Hopefully, Brian Costello of the New York Post talk Jets and Eagles with us next here on Birds 365.